Okay, so we have just finished the add all method, and we will move to implement the another method, which is the remove method. We do as before, remove method should, and we see we add display name as before to make sure that we have readable documentation, readable architecture for our code. Okay, we add like right here the test, we add display name that says remove method should. For the first test, we would, let's say that the remove method will remove it, remove an existing element. Okay, so it would remove that existing element. So remove an existing element. Okay, we would test this by, let's say, assert true that we added. We would add the fake element by TDD set add our fake element. We assert true that we TDD remove this element, and we assert that the size of our set is resetted to 0. Okay, we execute our code, see if it's working. We can wrap all of these tests in assert all to gain time, but we will keep it like this for the moment. Okay, so it's not working. Why? Because we have a failure in assert true. Our remove is returning false. We fake it by returning true and see what happens. Okay, so right here we have a failing test, and we expect 0, and we founded the actual one, which was 1. So we need to implement the remove method. Okay, so we assume right here that the method, the set contains that element. We rename this to be to remove. I think it's a prettier name, and we will try to remove this element from our set. Okay, so right here, let's have a discussion right here. So we have two match algorithms. We have whether we use a shifting algorithm, or we use we create a new array that would return us the new element. If we use a shifting array, we would found ourselves with an array that contains null elements. So I'd rather right here to use a new element, a new array, and fill this array of the element that I need, rather than making shifting and let's say having the same array, making shifting and preserving null elements in that array. So for that, I would create a new elements, and I would instantiate it with the same cast. Same cast of new object. I would have the size of this array would be the size of what we have, the length of the elements that we have, -1. Great. Right here, I would make a for loop in that in elements, and I will see if element is equal to remove. We would return if the element is equal to remove. If it's not equal, let's code the other way around. So we would say if it's not equal, we would put it right there in the new element. Okay, we will create right here a counter. that takes 0, and we would do new elements of that counter takes our elements, right? And we will increment our counter. We should, like, at the end, overwrite our elements array. We execute our code and see if it's working. Okay, we just renamed our tests. That's why it's not working, so it's not finding the test. Great, so it's working. Let's move to the next test, which would say that our remove method should return false if the element does not exist. So if the element does not exist, we should return false. Return false when the element does not exist. So we create void return false when the element does not exist. Great. Okay, so we assert first of all that we surely add our TDD set add our fake method, and we assert, of course, we could like directly returning the assert false of that remove. We like try to remove something that does not exist, right? So if you execute our code, this code, it should return like false. Okay, great, we have a failing test, and it's like a negative array size exception. So we have like right here, like the array, or like we have, like in our code, we assume that the element exists already in elements. So we would make the failing early principle right here, apply the failing early rule right here, and say if it does not contain that to remove, so please return as false, and we re-execute our code to see if it's working. Great, so it's working. Great. Let's go to the next test. I assume we let's say we tested if we add new element, if we remove an existing element, and if we remove something that does not exist. We didn't test yet if we remove something that is null. So it should not remove a null element, or it should throw exception when removing a null element. Great. We add, let's say, throw exception when removing a null element. Okay, we like assert throw as before, null pointer exception class, like we did the same thing that we did for the other. We remove null elements. We cannot remove null elements. Okay, and we execute our code to see if it's working. Okay, so right here we have a failing test. We will go and implement a remove all. We could use the objects API from Java and require that the element should not be null. and we execute our code to see if it's working. Okay, right here we executed our code and it's pretty working nicely. Great. Let's execute all our code to be sure that we didn't break any test while coding our solution. Great, so our test is passing and we tested the remove method, and that's all for this video. Thank you.